So this right here is the Cirrus MHS single bike tray. This is on the 1+1 base with their duo tray design. Now coming in at $549, you're gonna get a single bike rack setup that can be expanded into a 2 bike rack setup for right around $350 more. So first up, whenever you're looking at the Cirrus MHS setup, there's gonna be so many different configurations on this. This is a modular hitch system. That's what MHS stands for. This particular setup is the single bike rack setup, but it comes on a base called a 1+1. What that basically means is that you will have one single bike rack, but then you have a spot right up top here that you can actually purchase an additional bike rack for if you want to. That way you can expand this from a single bike rack to a double bike rack. But if you want more than just 2 bikes on your bike rack, they sell multiple different base systems. This one's the 1+1. They have the 2+1 and the 3+1. So you can get a setup that would hold up to 4 bikes. Now there is a little bit of a caveat with the extra bike that you would be putting on this. Anytime you do the expansion of the bike rack, you are going to be limited to 35 pounds on that particular bike on the end. So if you do have a heavier e-bike like this guy right here, you wouldn't be able to put it on the expanded version of that bike rack. However, you can have it on the main tray because the main tray can actually handle up to 80 pounds on the 1+1. Now the 1+1 base is the only base that can actually be used on either a 2-inch hitch or an 1.25-inch hitch. So if you've got a smaller 1.25-inch hitch, you're going to want to make sure that you look at the 1+1 base. The 2+1 and the 3+1 just won't work. Now, as you can see on this particular unit, you do have 2 arms that are attaching to the bike. This is called the duo tray. They do sell an uno tray, which will just attach with 1 arm and also some straps down at the other end. But on this particular unit, it's their higher end, more premium version. Now the duo tray can actually handle all the way down to a 20-inch wheel, all the way up to a 29-inch wheel. I've got this one set all the way up to the max height because this is a 29-inch wheel bike. But if you were to have, say, a 20-inch bike or maybe a 26-inch bike, you just simply undo this little pin right here that is completely toolless. So once you've got this pin out, this little piece right here will come on and off, and then it'll slide down to whatever level you need this to slide into. Now, one of the things that I think is a little bit of a downfall or an oversight on Cirrus's part is that they didn't label these to indicate what wheel size you should be using it for. So whenever you do get this, you're just gonna have to kind of fit it to your bike to figure out which one will work appropriate for you. Now, once you've got this set up to your wheel size, you just simply slide the pin back in and then thread it into the other side. Now, one thing I have noticed is that this pin can be kind of tricky. It doesn't always line up perfectly. And so you kind of have to work with it to get it lined up absolutely perfectly to be able to thread it back into the other side. That's something that I think that they can make just a little bit better. But once you've got this set to your wheel height, a lot of times you're not going to be changing it anyways. Now, once you've got the wheel shim put into the proper place for your particular bike, you're now ready to just load your bike up. And it has a notching mechanism that will prevent this arm from going back and only forward. So whenever you're going down the road, you don't have to worry about these arms actually opening back up and your bike falling off the back. They're prevented by a locking mechanism. As you can hear here, it's got a lot of variability. You barely have to move that arm for it to click to the next level. So you can get this pretty tight on your bike, so your bike's not gonna be moving around on you. Now, I've used this dual arm style of rack before with several other brands, and they are completely stable. Even if you have a flat tire, I've found that you can go down the road and you don't have to worry about your bike falling off on these. But Cirrus did make some extra precautions to make this even more stable and to ensure that your bike doesn't actually fall off. One thing they did is they put a little wheel strap down here, which is kind of nice to see because I know on some of the other brands, some of the comments I've received are people concerned with not having a strap down there. This is not necessary at all, but it's just an extra precaution as you go down the road. And anything they can do to make your bike a little bit more secure, in my mind, is well worth it. One other thing that they do have is they do have a wheel chock right up here, which will prevent the bike from rolling back. Now, if you have a smaller wheelbase bike, like a gravel bike or a road bike, you will see that this arm here will be pushed quite a bit further forward than what this one is. So it does look a little bit weird. It looks a little bit off center, but that wheel chock serves a really good purpose. It keeps the bike nice and stable, keeps it really locked in place up front. and then you don't have to worry about it rolling backwards on you at all. So having these two extra security features, the wheel chock and the wheel strap, I think is a great add-on. Now, something that seems to be commonplace on a lot of racks is the ability to tilt down and tilt it back up. So with the bike on, you can just simply grab the handle and you can tilt this down. So now you'll have access to be able to open up your tailgate. And you want to be careful whenever you do this, just to make sure that you're not going to be hitting any of your pedals or anything like that. But on my Toyota Tacoma, this works perfectly. I can get access to the bed of my truck and still have my bike on the rack. And then to tilt it back up, it's just really easy. You just push on your bike or on the rack itself and it locks back into place. Now, as for security, I really like how they put some thought into you using the same key for both the hitch pin and the rack. And if you do pick up an extra tray, they included an extra lock that would fit with that. So not only your main base and your extra base, but also your hitch pin will use the exact same key. Now on the Duo tray, the locking mechanism is actually pretty nice. It's a cable system that pulls out on either side of the middle of the rack. Then it will lock into place from right here. So you can secure your bike with plenty of room, and they rubber coated everything so you don't have to worry about it banging up against your bike and scratching your paint. And then once you're done with it and you've got it unlocked, you just simply slide the cable right back into the tray, and you don't have to worry about storing this cable anywhere else. Now when you go to unload your bike, it's super simple. You can just squeeze this, lower this down. Now you don't want to go too far because it'll go all the way down to the ground. There is a point where this thing actually locks, and right about there, that's about as wide as you can make these arms go. Now, whenever you're ready to release the front one, just hold onto your bike and just give this lever a squeeze, and then it should just drop back like that. And then don't forget to remove this strap right here. Now you're ready to remove your bike. And if you're not going to have a bike on it at all, you're just going to want to put the strap back down in here. This will actually curve all the way back around, and it locks in on itself in the back side of this, which is nice, so you don't have a strap that's just kind of dangling there. You can either pull them like this, but it does get a little bit loud. You can just push in on the lever and then it'll move silently, and now you're locked in place. Do the same for the other side. Now you can transport it just like this, or you can raise it up like this. Now, one of the downfalls of this particular rack is how wide this base is. You're going to be completely blocking your license plate at this point. So generally, whenever I'm not transporting a bike around, I tend to drive around with it like this. So my license plate is visible, but when I get to my destination, I usually just raise it up. Or if I'm pulling into my garage, I'll raise it up too. That way I don't have to pull so far into my garage that I can close the garage door. But they do sell some other accessories on their website that you may be interested in. You can get a light kit, and that light kit will attach to the side right here. And that light kit includes brake lights and turn signals built in. And you can see the lights with the tray up like this or down like that. Now, if you do have a heavy e-bike like the one that I was showing you right there, or maybe one that's even a little bit heavier, pushing the 80-pound limit of this bike rack, you may want to consider the e-bike ramp. Now, I'm not going to lie, the e-bike ramp is very expensive. It runs right around $190, and it doesn't attach to this. And with the e-bike tray, you will just attach it to the side of the rack, roll your bike up, get it locked in place, and then remove the tray. It doesn't actually slide into the actual rack itself. And at $189, it's definitely one of the more expensive e-bike ramps out there. But if you do have a super heavy bike, I strongly recommend considering getting one of those e-bike ramps. Now, overall, the stability of this bike rack definitely competes with a lot of the premium brands out there. I've been super impressed with how stable this bike rack looks whenever I'm going down the road. Even having a heavier e-bike on here, the bike seems to be locked into the truck really, really well. So there you go. My overall experience so far with the Cirrus MHS 1 bike rack has been really positive. There are some plastic parts like this right here. You are going to get a plastic strap, plastic wheel chocks right there. But overall, the main components of this rack are made with really solid materials. The plastic parts I'm not super concerned with because they're touching things like your tires, or they're just not going to have any physical contact. They're just there for aesthetics. Now, a few things that I love about this bike rack is the fact that you can adjust this up and down. You don't see that with all the bike racks out there, and having that as an option is a really nice feature. Now, one other thing that I really do love about this bike rack is that it's modular. So if you don't like the dual arm design and you want to go with a single arm design, you can pick one of those up. And one last thing that I really do like about this bike rack is the expandability of this. You can start out with a 1, 2, or 3 bike rack, and if you get another bike that you need to haul along with you, well, you can add an additional one to it. So overall, the MHS series of bike racks by Cirrus is definitely super versatile. Now, for a few things that I'm not a big fan of on this bike rack, one is how big this base is and how it blocks your license plate so much. I don't feel right having this upright whenever my license plate is completely blocked. I would have to find a solution to put the license plate on the outside. Not all bike racks, when tilted up like this, have this much area actually blocking your license plate. So that's something that you're definitely going to want to consider whenever purchasing one of these racks. Now, the other thing that I do wish was a little bit better on this bike rack are the wheel chocks that are up here on these arms. I wish they were a little bit easier to adjust. The toolless design is really nice, but whenever you go to slide that pin back in, it can be a little bit stubborn at times. So overall, I think the Cirrus MHS bike rack is definitely a super strong, super stable bike rack that I feel really comfortable putting my even heavy e-bikes on going down the road. Now, if you want to pick one of these up, I'll put some links down below. You can use those links to decide which one will actually work best for you, whether it's the single bike rack with the add-on or whether it's the 3 bike rack with the add-on. There's so much versatility with this. They also have some additional accessories that you may want to check out. All right, so if you guys want to see more bike reviews, bike rack reviews, and bike accessory reviews, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, leave me a comment, and we'll see you guys in the next one.